everyone, my name's Sean McCusker, and I'm an artist. I have a studio over at the Liechtenstein Center for the Arts. This is an example of my work, and I'm going to be going over the many layers that make it up, both physically and developmentally. But before I go into that, I just want to mention that I'm also a member of a lot of the cultural organizations in Pittsfield. I'm on the Artscape Committee who put up the sculptures around Pittsfield. We also are involved currently with the Paint Box program, painting the utility boxes along North Street. And I curate shows for Stephen Valenti's Clothing for Men. So like my paintings, my life is also very well layered in the arts. I am, however, most well known for my abstract paintings. This is a photograph of me giving a painting demonstration of my glazing technique. And I'll get to that in just a moment, but I'm known for these very vibrant, very intense sort of surrealist landscapes. And when people first see me and see my work, they all often ask, where does it come from? And I always give a different answer because it comes from a lot of things. Initially, I looked at all of my student work and I asked myself a single question. I said, is there something similar in all this? Is there something my subconscious is trying to get out? And in analyzing all the pieces, I found that there was this sort of almost obsession with the rotund. I like the curved shapes of forms. And so I decided to take that as a focus and see where I could go with it. Another thing I enjoyed a lot was the human figure. So I decided to take my ideas of the round and then simplify the human figure down to a few forms I could then put into abstract compositions. This is a progression of that. So I continued to modify the form, break it down to sort of this hunched figure that's slowly sort of interacting with its world. And I came up with these two spheroid shapes, one on top of another. And when I combined them, I found that by altering sort of the positioning of the two forms, I could emote. They could be sad or mournful, or they could be excited, depending on the position of these things. And I said, that's great. That gets a lot of input out of this small figure. Then I needed a place to set the figure. So I looked to my history. I grew up in Middlefield, Mass, in the quiet hill towns. There weren't that many people around, a few cattle, but that was it. And I love the rolling hills. So I used that as inspiration. Again, simplifying the hills to go with my figure, I started to get a list of forms. And by layering them together, I started to build up these scenes. The interesting thing there was they felt like they had a story. And to my delight, people loved to tell me what they thought the story was. And I thought, this is great, because I was only thinking about it as abstraction, composition. I was just setting forms in space, and they said, this looks celestial, this looks like fingers, and so forth. So it was a beautiful thing, and that's where I developed an idea of art as a collaboration. The artist starts the painting, they sort of set the stage, if you will, and then the viewer, the audience, interprets it, and that's when the painting is complete. And I believe that to this day. Now, a few of the slides I've shown here, most of them have been drawings, and a lot of them have also been prints. But I'm most well known for my oil paintings. In college, I was known for my printmaking. I really loved printmaking. I love the process of it. It's very methodical. You have a spark of idea, and then you get to make that happen by a long process of cutting out negatives and inking positives and printing and so forth. But ultimately, the vibrant colors of oil paints sort of won me over. And I had to stop printmaking because I could make this very quickly, very easily. And it could get out so much more emotion, so much more impact than I personally was able to get out of printmaking. But I still loved printmaking. And I asked myself, is there a way that I can combine the purity of oil colors and the method of printmaking? So I started to dilute my pigments, my oil paints, with it's a Winsor Newton product called Liquin, which let me make them more translucent, so I could paint layer after layer after layer. And I started to develop these kinds of paintings where there's a lot of gradation. You see the smooth transitions in the forms, and the colors are very striking and bold. Another interesting note, if you see them in person, they have a bigger impact, because light literally goes deep into the painting and comes back out because it's going through transparent layers. And this is an example of how I build up these oil paintings. These are the first two layers of an oil painting, and we'll see more as we go. I call this the ugly phase, because although I know what the composition is going to look like, no one else would. And I've painted the colors separately so that they can hold up against all the many layers to come, and it just very slowly comes together. These are about 16 or 17 layers in at this point, so it's still not really what I would consider pretty. But eventually, you keep working on it and you start to build up these rich colors. They start to come together. Believe it or not, these are two different layers of the painting. This is when I get obsessive and I say, I need this shape to be a little bit darker, I need this shape to be a little bit lighter, and they go back and forth quite a bit. Now, I've mentioned that the works have an amazing impression in person, and I'm sorry you can't see that in slide form, but you can see them develop over time. So these are all the layers to a particular painting as it is developed. And you'll see it starts to tighten up, and I start to make very little changes in it towards the end. So this is sort of the creative process to my work, and I recommend that you see it in person. I actually have some work up over at Bagels 2 currently, and I have, of course, images and more information about myself on my website at sean-mccusker.com. Thank you all for listening.